I didn't know you were here. It's time for a story about the Magic Mouse. As you recall, Magic Mouse moved into the treehouse in Mother Amal's garden, where the children had graciously invited to live. Mouse being so small, so as never, ever to be seen. And no one could tell if Mouse were a boy or a girl. And Mouse said, it makes no difference. On this particular day, the children inquired of Mouse as to who the little dog was that was always in the garden. And it was our friend here, Mabel. Now, Magic Mouse decided to tell the children the story of Mabel's great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, the original Narnie Hound of Tombstone, Arizona. Now, these Narnie Hounds were very special dogs. These Narnie Hounds were so special that they stopped all the violence. Now, you've heard of the famous gunfight at the OK Corral. Well, now, the gunfight at the OK Corral could not have occurred or could not have been the way it was if not for the Narnie Hounds of Tombstone. You see, Wyatt Earp was the constable and the marshal of Tombstone, and the Clanton brothers were the evil ones who Marshal Earp was determined to stop. Well, Earp did not know that the Clanton brothers were at the OK Corral, and he had gone there to look at his horse. And he was completely unaware of the fact that danger was looming behind every corner. And you didn't know this about Earp, but he wore this dog in a gun holster instead of a gun. And then, when he was there watering his horse, and suddenly he heard a noise, and it was the Clanton brothers who had come to seek revenge on Marshal Wyatt Earp. Well, the Clanton brothers, at first seeing Earp, they looked and they saw this dog in his gun holster, and they weren't about to shoot an unarmed man. And Earp suddenly reached down and pulled out the dog, and when he pulled it out, it barked. And the Clantons thought it was so funny that they doubled up with laughter, at which point Earp got his gun and put them down. And that's how the gunfight at the OK Corral was won. But there are other stories of the West that I could share with you. Marshal Earp was only one, but you know, our native peoples, they are different than we, the non-natives. And one difference is, as a story was told by my friend Chief Openheart, when the white man is out on the mesa and out looking for the stars, and the clouds come and steal the stars at night, and he cannot find his cabin, he beats his chest and said, I am lost, I cannot find my cabin. But when the young brave is out in the desert and the stars are stolen by the clouds, he does not beat his chest like the white man. He sits and eats some herbs and nuts that he found in the desert, and he smiles and says, my teepee is lost. I know where I am. And that's our story for today.
Hooray for the world, I'm glad to be on it. Hooray for the world, I'm glad to be on it. Hooray for the world, it's a special place. We got Mother Nature and the human race. The world's got buffalo, the world's got bees, the world's got jellyfish swimming in the seas. We got beavers and bears, bats and bugs, miniature poodles and slimy old slugs. Oh, hooray for the world, I'm glad to be on it. Hooray for the world, I'm glad to be on it. Hooray for the world, it's a special place. We got Mother Nature and the human race. The world's got salami, the world's got cheese. We got maple syrup and mulberries. We got egg bouillon, bagels and lox, corn on the cob and raisins in a box. Oh, hooray for the world, I'm glad to be on it. Hooray for the world, I'm glad to be on it. Hooray for the world, it's a special place. We got Mother Nature and the human race. We got moms and dads, uncles and aunts, brothers, sisters, grandmas and gramps. We got neighbors next door, kids down the street. Everywhere we go, we got new friends to meet. Oh, hooray for the world, I'm glad to be on it. Hooray for the world, I'm glad to be on it. Hooray for the world, it's a special place. We got Mother Nature and the human race. Oh, hooray for the world, I'm glad to be on it. Hooray for the world, I'm glad to be on it. Hooray for the world, it's a special place. We got Mother Nature and the human race. Oh.
Today we have got a special treat for you. We've got a, well, I don't know what to call him. I guess he's a clown. He's a potato peeler. That's all he is. I know his name is Wolf, but he's late. And Wolf, where are you? I mean, you're supposed to have been here. The show has started, and you're not here, and the kids are all here. And oh gosh, man, I wish you'd come on time. You're always late. Were you angry at him for being late? He kept you waiting and all the children? Well, Mabel, you did such a horrible thing. I think I'm going to leave you to your own. If you get Mabel mad at you like you did, well, I don't know. Mouse and I are going to take Mabel and go rest. You figure it out. I'm not going to, well, I'll forgive you, but you're on your own.
their minds just won't let the sun shine in. And the wise man tends his thoughts with love and care, and he grows his happiness and sunshine there. In my Father's house there are many mansions. They're all fine, but they're all different, you see. And so don't tell your neighbor you're better than he is. And don't put limitations on God or me. To find the good in everyone we come to, I'm sure that's the way it ought to be. And to constantly return good for evil and shine a light for those who cannot see. In my Father's house there are many mansions. They're all fine, but they're all different, you see. So don't tell your neighbor you're better than he is. And don't put limitations on God or me. On God or me. On God or me.
Hi, and welcome to Silicon Kids. I'm Melanie.
I'm Trisha.
I'm Nancy.
I'm Annie.
I'm Dale.
And I'm Sunil. On today's show,
Dale visits the Cupertino Historical Museum and interviews Judith Carlson Crows, the manager of the museum, and learns about the various exhibits. Trisha interviews teenage members of the Amigos de las Americas, an organization whose members spend their summers helping people in Latin America.
hope you enjoy our show.
Hi, I'm Dale from Silicon Kids at the Cupertino Historical Museum with Judith Carlson Crows, the manager of the museum. What is the Cupertino Historical Museum and what is its goal?
Well, the museum is an area to show displays of different objects and written information about the history of Cupertino. Actually, it has a major mission, but one of the goals is, in particular, to be kind of a bridge for the Cupertino community from its past to the present to the future. We consider that our goal.
Could you describe for me some of the different exhibits in the museum?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Our first exhibit actually is called Cupertino, Crossroads of the Valley, and it deals with really only a 100-year period in Cupertino's history, from 1840 to 1940. And what we have done is we have set up about 4 or 5 different display areas dealing with some examples of what life was like to the early Northern European and American settlers in the Cupertino area. So the first one that is over to our right here has to do with farming and agricultural, and has a lot of farm implements, tools that the farmers used when they were growing their apricots and cutting their apricots and taking them to market, or when they were growing grapes, because all of this was vineyards initially. When they first settled here in the 1840s and 50s, they grew grapes. And then they had vineyards and wineries. That was a major crop. So it shows some of the things, some of the tools that they used for those things. And then another display, for instance, is almost all from the Piketty family. And that family was an Italian family who came here in the mid-1800s and did have one of the first vineyards and wineries up on Montebello Ridge. So that has an example of their house, really, of how their life was in their house. There's a bed there, and some of the clothing that they used, and some of the pictures of their family and everything. So that's a little example. And then we have another one that is of an old school, looks kind of like a school classroom, and another one that is more of a family room in a house, and shows a child's chair and some of the things that the family used to entertain themselves in the 1800s.
Do you have a personal favorite in the museum, and why is that particular one your favorite?
Well, I think my personal favorite really is the Piketty collection, primarily because it's very together as a display. It shows a family. It shows the pictures of Vincenzo and Teresa Piketty and their children, and you get a sense of the whole family, really. And some of the clothing that the women made, some were made in Italy, but a lot of them made here or embroidered here. And I really get a sense when I look at that, what their life probably was like. I mean, it was very labor intensive, but probably a good life too. So I think that's my favorite.
Where did the items in the exhibits come from?
They came primarily from families here in the Cupertino area. Almost all of the objects were part of the families, ancestors of families who settled here in the late 1800s, early 1800s, early 1900s. So they've been in their families for in some cases, over 100 years, and they were kept in attics and garages and under beds and just everywhere until the museum opened. So I would say about 96% of those came from Cupertino families and are objects from the very early pioneer families.
Do you have or ever plan on having any modern exhibits?
Yes, in fact, that's really an exciting prospect, because we're very aware that part of our history really starts in the 40s and the 50s with the entrance of companies. A lot of the electronic companies, some of them started right around here, and we have some really marvelous people in businesses around here that we would like to include in our future exhibits. Apple Computer and Tandem and Hewlett-Packard, a lot of those companies also have a lot to offer to the historical exhibit in the Cupertino Historical Museum. And of course, there are a lot of other things that we would like to involve. We'd like to get some of the schools involved and what school kids are doing currently. That's history. I mean, what's happening today is history tomorrow. So we will have more current things in future exhibits.
Do you have plans for expanding the museum?
I think every museum has plans to expand. We're really happy to start out with our 1,000 square feet, and we're very happy that the city of Cupertino had the space available to us. We would like to eventually have a larger space because we have over 3,000 objects in our collection. Now that's a lot, and it will probably continue to grow. So we will need more space, and when I come to change exhibits, which I do plan to do, I have no storage space right now. So it's rather difficult to make changes and to put all of our collection out here. So definitely expansion is in our plans for the future.
When is the museum open to the public?
The museum is open right now Wednesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. We will open it up on special occasions if someone requests us to do that. For instance, if they would like to hold an event here or they'd like a special tour, they just need to contact me and I'd be happy to do that. But the normal public hours are 10 to 4, Wednesday through Saturday.
Are there any other services that the museum does for the community?
Well, right now we're just organizing ourselves. I have just recently taken my docents who are tour guides through training sessions, and what they are going to start to do is make a lot more contact with the community, senior centers and retirement homes and Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, schools, of course. Everyone out in the community should be able to benefit from the museum, so we'll be making that contact. Now, one thing that we have been doing for quite a while, really, has been taking a traveling trunk, which is literally a little suitcase filled with historical objects, out into the community, and they have gone out into the schools. Most of the Cupertino schools, in fact, have had them at one time or another, and will continue to get them, and we've taken them recently into some senior centers around. And I do have that here if you would like to go over and look at some of those objects.
Okay.
This is our traveling trunk that I mentioned. This is really fun. We take this out to schools and to senior centers and really to anyone that would like to see the museum and either can't come into the museum or would like to see it in a classroom setting or context or something. So we take this out in the trunk of our car and we put it on a table or something and have all the kids or the seniors sit around and we start pulling things out. And normally what I have is a couple of the older Historical Society members who in fact know everything about these objects, and they explain them. And they pull them out and they ask the kids or the seniors, what is this for? And most of them can't really answer. Some can. And they go through a lot of what life was like. For instance, they point to a picture that we have of an old stove and some of the implements and things that were used on the stove. This, for instance, was a soot scraper. When they burned all the coal or the wood in the stove, this they would use to scrape the soot out. Everything was very handmade and hand-used and labor-intensive in those times. So we kind of go through a little kitchen scene with this, for instance, or laundry scene. This is a little scrubber, little hand-board, washboard, tiny one. This was for small objects, obviously, or just for linens or something like that. And so then we usually pass these things around to people so that they can touch them. That's really important, so that people have a sense of what these are made of. They're not fragile. These are things that often have withstood 100 years already. So we do pass them around and people look at them, ask questions about them and everything. And there are a lot of metal and wood things in here. Almost everything is that. Like we have this old iron. Oh, I mean, it's really heavy, if you can imagine. You want to lift it? Yeah, I mean, everything was heavy. That back. Okay. So anyway, this is something that people can actually have a museum visit them. So this is an example of a service we take out into the community. Would you like to see a little bit more of the exhibit that's actually in the museum?
Yeah. What's this exhibit over here?
Well, this shows a lot of what the farming life was like. As I mentioned before, everything was very labor-intensive, and they even made their own tools. But all of Cupertino at one time was, well, obviously just plain land at one time, but then eventually it was all vineyards and then all orchards. And this shows some of the things that people did to harvest, to plant their grain and to harvest that, and what the tools were that they used. And one of the things I mentioned, wineries and things, they had to make big oak barrels. And what we have in here is this plane, which you'll see is round. Now, they use this on the inside of the barrels. So this is very different than just a straight planer. So, but everything, even the tools were made by hand. If you can imagine how much time went into that. And all the families worked together out in the fields, whether it was growing apricots, cutting apricots, or whatever. They all worked together to help harvest the fruits and things. So anyway, this is a little bit about what this display is. It shows a lot of tools, shows a lot of what they had to do to get food on the table. So let's go over to another display, and I'll show you a little bit of what maybe the inside of a house looked like.
Okay.
Okay, now this is a little bit of a view inside the family home. This probably would have been considered kind of the parlor, and it shows a little bit about what people did when they weren't out farming. And a lot of it has to do with kids playing, like there are some blocks here. These are over 100 years old. Remember, there was not any electricity, so often they relied on the kerosene lanterns that we have here, and there were also candles and things used. They had in here an example of photos, because it was almost a presentation room as well. So they had photos, they had albums, the Bible. It was where the family got together to be a family very often. So, well, let's leave here. Do you have some questions about any of this, Dale?
Yeah, I was wondering what that was.
Oh, this is fun. Okay, this is a stereo optic. It is something that really was used to give a view. People didn't have TV, they didn't have documentaries, they didn't have anything like that. So they used this. There were cards and things with it that showed different views of maybe the United States, the Grand Canyon or something. And they'd look through there, and there was magnifying glass in there, and they could see this enlarged, and it was almost just like viewing a video or something. So it was a little bit different, but it showed them a different part of life that they weren't living right at that time. So that was their TV, basically. So not quite the same, but some entertainment for them anyway. So let's go over and look at one of our other displays.
Okay. You mentioned this was your favorite exhibit.
That's right. This is the Piketty collection. And the reason it was my favorite exhibit is because it shows really from a family what a room in that family house looked like, and probably what the family life was like. We have here the bed from the Piketty families. The Pikettys were ones who settled on Montebello Ridge and had wineries and things. They were an Italian family, and they brought some of the things from Italy and some things they made here. This is all from their bedroom, and we have photos on the wall. There's a woman's hat. A lot of the linens and things were actually on their bed. The women spent their time embroidering and crocheting if they weren't cooking for their men. Or they would go out. They had a lake on the property, and every afternoon they would take their crocheting out, and they would be crocheting while they were rowing along the lake. So, I mean, it was a good life, I'm sure, but it was difficult too, because they had to make everything. So that's a little bit about the Cupertino Historical Museum. Are there any questions that you would like to have me answer?
How much does it cost to come and view this?
This is free, and I'd like to invite everyone, all of your audience in. As I said before, we're open Wednesday through Saturday from 10 to 4 p.m. right now. Special arrangements can be made for special tours. We definitely will take our other museum, our traveling trunk, out into schools. Again, it's free to everyone. This is public. Also, we are located in the Quinlan Community Center, which is on North Stelling Road, right off of Stevens Creek Boulevard. So it's not very far. It's right in the heart of Cupertino. So I was awfully glad that you came and visited us today, Dale, and I hope everyone, all of your audience, comes and visits us.
Well, thank you, Judith. And this is Dale from Silicon Kids.
As Judith mentioned, the Cupertino Historical Museum has changing exhibits. There is always something new. Like this 1912 Kelly farm truck in the lobby of the community center in front of the museum. Now, how did they get that truck in there?
Amigos. The hardest work, the longest days, and the coldest nights. A thousand needs reaching out for a helping hand and making a difference personally. Your body won't forget the work, and your heart won't forget the faces. Amigos. Friends.
Hi, I'm Trisha for Silicon Kids, and I'm with some teenage members of the Amigos de las Americas organization. Let's have them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Carrie Dudman, and I'm a senior at Monte Vista High School in Cupertino.
Hi, my name is Manisha Shah, and I'm a senior at Lynbrook High School in San Jose.
Hi, my name is Arun Maman Thomas, and I'm a senior at Lynbrook also.
Hi, my name's Anita Talasetti, and I'm a junior at Lynbrook.
What is the Amigos organization?
Well, Amigos de las Americas, which translates into English as Friends of the Americas, is a nonprofit, non-denominational international group that travels to different countries, sends teenagers to different countries in Latin America to work in the fields of community development. Right now we're working in Ecuador, Paraguay, Brazil, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, and Mexico. And we're working in different programs such as community sanitation, which is the construction of latrines, dental hygiene, immunizations of people and also of animals, and the eyeglass program.
How old is the organization and when did it start?
Amigos is an organization that is 25 years old, and it started when a group of 4 gringos had taken a vacation to Honduras, and there they wanted to see the Mayan ruins, and they met with a man who said that even God had forgotten them there. So they returned to America, and with the help of a church, they organized a group of kids and adults that were to go down to Honduras and immunize people. And the project was such a great success that the Honduran government invited Amigos back the next year. And from there, Amigos grew to visit many Latin American countries and work in their fields.
Why did you decide to join?
I joined Amigos because I wanted to do something good during my summer, and I wanted to help people, and I wanted to experience new cultures. And
why did you decide to join?
I thought it would be a great cultural experience, learning about their culture and then also teaching them about the American culture here, and also a great way to practice my Spanish.
What sort of training did you have to go through to join the Amigos?
Well, we had to prepare for all those various projects that Carrie mentioned. For example, for the community sanitation project, we practiced building a latrine. We actually dug the hole and built a mini latrine, and we were also practiced a lot of Spanish and learned first aid, because that was one of the requirements our chapter placed, that we had to know first aid. And we learned about the eye for the eyeglass program in case we were in that, and it was similar for all the other programs as well.
Where did all of you travel to?
Well, in 1989, I went to Ecuador, to the province of Bolivar, and worked in the community sanitation program, building latrines for 6 weeks. And in this past year, in 1990, I went to Mexico, to the province of Guanajuato, for 8 weeks, working in community sanitation, building latrines and cement floors and planting trees and doing dental programs.
Where did you travel to?
In the summer of '90, I was in Bolivar, Ecuador for 6 weeks, and I was on a community sanitation program, and we built 15 latrines for the town. We also had side projects of dental hygiene, where we practiced brushing our teeth with the kids, and we also taught some English classes in the local school.
Where did you travel to?
Well, in the summer of 1990, I went to Mexico. My town was, I was in a town called Quiterio, and we worked on community sanitation, where we built latrines, and then our secondary project was dental hygiene, where we taught many of the youth in our town how to brush teeth properly and other things like that.
Where did you travel to?
This is my first year doing Amigos, and I'm in training right now, but hopefully in the summer of 1991, I plan on going to Ecuador and do community sanitation.
What was it like when you first arrived to the country you were stationed at? Carrie, are you going to do that? Okay.
Okay, well, it's a very different culture than it is here. The first day I arrived in my town, it was kind of scary because my Spanish was very limited at the time, but I was surrounded by this town full of very friendly, very eager to get to know me people, just children, adults. Everyone was curious about these strange American people that had landed in their town. For the first day it was kind of weird, but it's a very welcoming situation, and I felt right at home really soon.
How are your expenses paid for?
Well, we fundraise, and each Amigo has to fundraise a total of $2,100, and the family puts up $800 of the total. And our first fundraiser was selling grapefruit, and in the beginning I thought, grapefruit, who's going to buy grapefruit? But it worked out pretty well, and I raised about $400 from grapefruit. And other fundraisers we do is we're doing an auction, which everything is donated, and we auction the items off. And hopefully I plan to raise a lot of money from that. And we also write letters to companies and friends and relatives asking them to donate some money.
What did you gain from being in the Amigos?
Well, it's hard to kind of sum up everything that you gain, but right now, I mean, as I'm a senior and about to go off to college, I've decided that I want to major in international studies, and I've learned that there's a lot more to this world than what's on our front doorstep. I've come across some people who have a very different way of life from us. They say tranquilo, which, although it translates to tranquil, that doesn't really give you a full sense meaning of the word, because it's kind of a way of life. It's a laid-back attitude. They take things really a lot calmer than we do here, and they probably have a lot lower blood pressure. And I think that we could all learn a little bit from these people.
What did you gain?
A lot of what Carrie said, I feel the same way. You learn a new way of life, basically. The people in Latin America are so family oriented in comparison to here. The family is very important. Your whole life basically revolves around your family. You're with your family most of the day. And it was basically, another style of living, which I never experienced here in America. And I think it's something that, everyone should learn about. And it's really interesting to learn about new cultures. And I also hope to go on to do international studies or something in that field, because I think it's very important to be globally aware of other cultures and other countries. So.
And what did you gain?
Well, I gained all the stuff they said just now, and but I also had made a lot of friends there. Both Mexican and among my peers from the U.S. My partners are really good friends of mine.
Would you recommend this to anyone?
I would recommend it to anyone who has the desire to do it. It's not something that everyone does. Maybe that's signified by the fact there's only about 550 people across the country that do it each year. But it's definitely been a positive experience for all of us, and I can't imagine it having a negative. I can't imagine it not being a positive experience for anyone.
Let's see a short tape about the Amigos organization.
Since 1965, Amigos de las Americas has been making a difference in Latin America and in the lives of young volunteers. By spending their summers working on projects in remote regions of Latin America, young people get the opportunity to improve public health in these regions, develop leadership skills, and experience a rich cross-cultural exchange. Amigos is a non-governmental, international organization that is funded totally through private donations and volunteer fundraising projects. Working closely with existing private and governmental agencies in the host countries, Amigos has made a major impact on public health. Building sanitary latrines, immunizing people, digging wells, vaccinating animals, and teaching oral hygiene have made a difference in the quality of life in these Latin American countries. And building relationships between young volunteers and rural communities and families has made a difference in all of their lives.
I wanted to do something useful with my summer where I could help people. I've always wanted to go to Latin America, and I wanted to improve my Spanish.
Volunteers learn and use management skills as they accept responsibility for the entire project, including handling supplies and ensuring that material for wells and latrines is not misused.
Definitely learn organizational skills, just how to plan, and also how to really be a leader, I think, and that, I hope, pays off eventually.
Amigos volunteer work is recognized by colleges, universities, and potential employers as a valuable work-life experience. The minimum age for becoming an Amigo is 16, but there is no upper age limit. The organization accepts people on all passports, and summer programs are of various lengths and start dates to accommodate a variety of commitments and school schedules.
It helps a lot because it helps out with your human relation skills. Like just dealing with people back here, I can do that a lot better because you're put down there and you're forced to deal with people in a totally different society, and you deal with them. And I didn't know anything about Latin America, and I'm glad I went down there for the first time out to the campo. I didn't, instead of going and visiting a city like a resort or something.
I think the best thing that Amigos does in Latin America is really showing people that they can take control of their lives, that they can make a difference on the health of their kids, of the health of their entire village, and that by just doing some simple steps and some simple projects, that they can literally wipe out diseases that have been taking place for years and years.
I really had a wonderful time. Our family was so friendly. They just welcomed us with open arms from the very beginning, and I just couldn't have had a better time. I thought I was in an ideal situation.
You'll be able to experience a completely different culture and understand how other people live, and at the same time help them out. And while you're doing that, you're really helping yourself out.
Amigos, come help us make a difference.
Look for more information about the Amigos organization at the end of this program. Thank you for joining us. I'm Tricia for Silicon Kids.
Congratulations to Silicon Kids Deborah Grote and Annie Yang, who graduated from Lynbrook High School in June 1991.
Well, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please join us next time here on
Silicon Kids.
Starting on my way back home again. I'm getting close, I'm getting near the end. And all the blessings I've received and all the joy that I've known, I know it's been a blessing of love. A blessing of love from the truest of friends. A blessing of peace that I found within. And so I say, knowing you'll understand, I love you, my friends. Dedicate my heart to eternal love, a pleasure I'm sure I'm truly worthy of. And to every soul, let them know it well, I'm sending out my blessings of love, a blessing of love from the truest of friends, a blessing of peace that I found within. And so I say, knowing you'll understand, I love you, my friends. It's easier now that I've been where I've been, because I know I'm never going back there again, except to lend a hand to my fellow man and share with them my blessings of love, a blessing of love from the truest of friends, a blessing of peace that I found within. And so I say, knowing you'll understand, I love you, my friend. Blessing of love from the truest of friends, a blessing of peace that I found within. And so I say, knowing you'll understand, I love you, my friend. Blessing of love from the truest of friends, a blessing of peace that I found within. And so I say, knowing you'll understand, I love you, my friend. I love you, my friend. I love you, my friend. I love you, my friend.
And all was quiet.
The dinosaurs lived long ago. They were a happy bunch. They could eat here and swim there. Enjoy an easy lunch.
was dark. Thunder growled as the great beasts lifted their tiny heads. For a minute, they stopped chewing and sniffed the air. Then, rain poured down, washing over the sleek sides of the giants. They began to move. The whole herd walked in the same direction, the dry ground trembling beneath their feet.
While the thunderstorm lasted, they walked. When it stopped, they stopped. They gathered around a hot, salty lake and began to crop the evergreen needles and cones from the trees they found at the edges. That evening, they heard a rumbling of another kind. In the distance, a volcano tossed ribbons of lava into the air. Ash, carried by a breeze, drifted into the lake and covered the animals with fine dust.
Next day, they set off again, following the rains, walking for miles over hot, dry country with no grasses. Several adults herded a group of calves. Finally, late that day, they came to a swampy oasis where a river ambled, an oasis filled with trees. Turtles, frogs, and snakes splashed into the swamps as the dinosaurs moved toward the water.
A soft rain was falling. Soon, the oasis was filled with animals.
Medium dinosaurs.
Small dinosaurs.
Armored dinosaurs.
But mostly the giant sauropods. Thunder lizard. Heavy lizard. Super lizard. Ultra lizard. Earth shaker lizard.
The sauropods browsed late into the evening, some reaching high to the tops of trees, balancing on their back legs and tails. Some munched on underwater plants while breathing through the nostrils on top of their heads. Evening was calm and quiet. Everything smelled like fresh rain.
Suddenly, a few of the large giants lifted their heads. The sounds of the animals coming up the river were different from any in the oasis. A huge foot stamped. A signal rippled through the herd. Danger, danger. Some of the giant animals whipped their tails back and forth. Others herded the calves together and began to form a ring around them.
Torvosaurus, savage lizard, burst through the trees. 12-inch claws dangled from its short arms. Its enormous mouth was filled with teeth that could cut and tear.
But the giants were ready. With the youngest and weakest dinosaurs in the middle, they stood in a circle. Some of the largest reared on their hind legs, then crashed down. Those massive front legs could easily break a Torvosaurus bone.
After circling a few times, the Torvosaurus gave up and ran off on its hind legs.
With the threat gone, the sauropods went back to their grazing. Along the edge of the swamp, frogs began to croak a soft song. Stars came out.
But they're gone away, no longer to be found. Time did them in, I can't have one around, but I still want a dinosaur for me. Yeah, I still want a dinosaur for me.
When someone makes you slip and you wanna bruise their lip, use a word.
Use a word.
When someone grabs your book and you go for your left hook, use a word.
Use a word.
'Cause we can work it out, that's what words were invented for. We can work it out, it's the best way there is for sure. To fight over something is absurd. So for Pete's sake, use a word. someone steals your ball and you wanna make them fall, use a word.
Use a word.
When someone plays a trick and you're winding up to kick, use a word.
Use a word.
'Cause we can work it out, that's what words were invented for. We can work it out, it's the best way there is for sure. To fight over something is absurd. So for Pete's sake, use a word. There's so many different words, they do all kinds of things. Some can make us smile and laugh while others hurt and sting. We get to choose the words we use each and every day. So when it's time to use a word, be careful what you say, 'cause we can work it out, that's what words were invented for. We can work it out, it's the best way there is for sure. To fight over something is absurd. So for Pete's sake, use a word. When someone hurts your pride and you wanna run and hide, use a word.
Use a word.
When someone thinks of you in a way that isn't true, use a word.
Use a word.
Everybody's different, take a look around and see. You're the only you I know and I'm the only me. Because we're all so different, there'll be times we'll disagree. But I just wanna say, my friend, that that's alright with me. 'Cause we can work it out, that's what words were invented for. We can work it out, it's the best way there is for sure. To fight over something is absurd. So for Pete's sake, and Jamie's and Nikki's and Juan's and Jamal's and Debbie's and Aaron's and Crystal's and David's and Andy's, use a word.
Well, kids, it's been a great day today. If you want to join the Magic Mouse Lovin' Gang, it's real easy. Won't cost anything. It's free. Just call 889-3100. That's our number. It's a voicemail box. 889-3100. And you can join the Magic Mouse Lovin' Gang. Leave your name and your address and your phone number, and we'll start sending you the newsletter and all the other things, and it doesn't cost anything. So why don't you give us a call at 889-3100 and become a member of the Magic Mouse Lovin' Gang.
I'd rather be me than watch TV. I think I'll go and hug a tree. I'd rather be me, I'd rather be free and live life in simplicity.
I'll go out and find some wood and carve it into something good. I'll find a rock and beat the ground and listen to its beautiful sound. 'Cause I'd rather be me than watch TV. I think I'll go and hug a tree. I'd rather be me, I'd rather be free and live life in simplicity.
I'll find some water and some dirt and draw some pictures on my shirt. When my mama catches me, I'll run right out and hug a tree.
'Cause I'd rather be me than watch TV. I think I'll go and hug a tree. I'd rather be me, I'd rather be free and live life in simplicity.
I'll find a bug and watch it crawl, climbing slowly up the wall. I'll find some things, I'll make a house and have some tea with Magic Mouse. 'Cause I'd rather be me than watch TV. I think I'll go and hug a tree. I'd rather be me, I'd rather be free and live life in simplicity. I'd rather be me than watch TV. I think I'll go and hug a tree. I'd rather be me, I'd rather be free and live life in simplicity.